Hello, Toolkit Masters, and welcome to Q&A Thursday, my favourite day of the week, as you know. So it's a pleasure to have you all here. I'm really excited to have you here because we've got some really great stuff to share with you today. But first off, I want to say a big howdy to those that have dialed in today. I've had a really great few days in Melbourne meeting some of our Toolkit Masters. It's been absolutely exceptional. So thank you for those guys for meeting with me. I met with Phil, Leanne, Lynn. We also spoke to Felicity, and we spoke to Simone and Liz. So it was fantastic to see you all and have a chat to you all and see how you're going on the Team Leader Toolkit program. All right, so without further ado, before we start, we need to make sure that you can see and hear me. So can you write that you can see and hear me in the chat box in the bottom right hand side of your screen, and we will go from there. So just that, hey, yeah, I did sure speak to you, Flick. Fantastic. All right. Anyone else we got on the line? All right. Hey, Sam, how you going? You can see and hear me. Fantastic. All right. Looks like we're on the air. Brilliant. Okay. So we got some great stuff to share with you today. So what I wanted to share with you today, because a lot of us are going through this change, like being on this program, right? So the feedback that I've had is, yes, you know, the program is fantastic, how we've got bite-sized pieces of information, but it's still full of change. And let me tell you that what I'm going to discuss with you today is your brain doesn't want to change. Your brain doesn't want to change, and I'm going to show you the 5 ways that you can help it to change, because ultimately it just doesn't like change. Okay, so first off, I want you to do something for me. I want you to be able to cross your arms. So you can't see me, but I'm crossing my arms, see? So cross your arms normally. Now that was easy, right? You didn't even have to think about that. Now I want you to cross them the other way. How was that? A little bit harder, a little bit more thought that you had to do? Absolutely. Now, let me tell you why. You've probably crossed your arms in the same way forever, for as long as you can remember. So that is an automatic habitual habit that you have created, and it comes from a different part of our brain. So it comes from the part of our brain, and I'm going to make sure I get this right. It comes from the limbic part of the brain, right? So when I asked you to do the second time and cross them differently but still cross your arms, that came from the prefrontal cortex. That's where it's high thinking and high planning, and it takes a lot more energy for the brain to do that. So then it doesn't like doing it because it takes longer for it to function, and it has to go into the deeper part of the brain and all those sorts of things. So let's just say our brains are quite, yes, it was harder, Flick, it was for me too. So our brains are quite lazy, and it'll go for the short circuit rather than having to think too hard and plan. So when we get to change, think of this in the workplace. So you've got team members that are going through change, and you might be getting some pushback from them. This is a natural reaction from anybody, even yourself. So if you think about it yourself, if you've tried to start a new diet or a new exercise regime, or go to bed earlier, or eat better, or do anything on a personal level, it's always hard to do and really hard to sustain it, because again, our brains, even though there could be good habits and bad habits, our brains can't differentiate between the two. So it will continue to do the things that are habitual, whether it's a good or bad habit. So let's have a think about how we can make our brains change in 5 ways. So these aren't going to be easy ways, but at least it's going to help you, especially when it comes to changing within your team. Okay, so let's see. Because the good news is that you can intentionally train yourself to think and behave in new ways. You can do that intentionally, and I'm going to show you how. All right, so let's have a look at the slideshow here, and it might just help you with some visuals and images and things. All right, so as we know, the brain's a bit lazy. So what can we do to try and shift this? Okay, so You can't counter emotion with logic. So what I mean by this is when we go through change, we often feel anxiety and fear of the unknown. And others might tell us, hey, you know, it's quite logical. This change is an automatic thing that we have to do. And it's a logical step forward and all those sorts of things, which is probably true, but it doesn't help us with the anxiety and the discomfort that we're feeling. So what do? You don't judge the feelings that you're feeling, because that is true, right? That's honest. What we need to do is observe them. And this is the first step, I guess, in embracing change. Observe those feelings. So why are we feeling these emotions? Give yourself time to process them. Get curious about why you're feeling anxious or afraid. Have you done this similar thing before and it hasn't worked out? Are you scared or concerned that you might look like an idiot because you won't know as much as you do now? You know, what are the fears that you're really feeling? And really reflect on those and have a think about, you know, why they are happening. So don't try and counter your emotion with logic. It's great to know that logic, and it's great to know why we're doing the changes, but ultimately it's not going to stop you feeling fearful and anxiety and, you know, anxious about what's happening. So be mindful about that with your teams as well. So communication is absolutely the key, but also be mindful that there'll still be a level of discomfort, even though you've communicated the change and the logical reasons why. They will still have a level of discomfort. So let them reflect on that. Let them embrace it before you sort of move too fast down the track. So don't try to counter emotion with logic. All right, so what's the next one we've got here? So you need to dial up the benefits for you. So what's in it for you? So even though most of the time we know change is good for us, right? And it's easy to resist it. You know, we like to have our comfortable old habits, and we don't like to go out of our comfort zone very often if we can help it. We're built not to go out of our comfort zone. It's a primal survival instinct thing anyway. So you need to identify what's in it for you. Dial up the benefits for you. So this is your motivator. So, you know, you've heard lots of stories, and you might have had friends that have gone on this diet and exercise regime because there's a big event coming up, whether that be a wedding or a birthday or you know, whatever it may be. That's their why. So they do all this stuff and they create this change till they get there, and then they feel good about that's what they've done it. But they've dialed up their why. They've accessed their reasons of why they're doing it and the purpose of why they're doing it, and that's why they've been able to stick to that. After that, another story usually, but anyway, this is what you need to do. You need to dial up what's in it for you and make sure you remind yourself about that. If you can't identify a positive benefit, especially in a workplace environment, think about what negative outcome you're trying to avoid. So if you can't think of a positive outcome about whatever change is coming through, it might be there might be organizational change, there might be design change, there might be process or policy change. If you can't find a positive in it, really struggle to find a positive. If you can't, think about what negative outcome will be avoided through this change, if you can find that. So dial up those benefits for you. I hope that makes sense. If anyone's got any questions during this, please just feel free to ask away. All right, so what's number 3 that you can do? Okay, so let's say, for example, your goal is to get healthier. This might mean exercising, eating better, getting enough sleep. And even though we know these things are good for us, we still have trouble making the changes. We make excuses. We don't have time. We don't have the money. We're feeling a bit lazy. We're not feeling right. When you're trying to eat better and all those sorts of things, what can you do differently to take those barriers away? So do you have to sleep in your gym clothes so you can get up and just get out the door without even thinking, and you're only half awake when you get halfway to the gym? Do you need to remove everything out of your kitchen and pantries that is going to give you any source of wanting to break that eating regime that you're following? You know, remove those things that are going to fail make you fail, and allow yourself to set yourself up for success. So identify what those barriers are and remove them. So in a work sense, what can you do to set yourself up for success? What barriers do you need to remove to ensure that this change can take place? And that might mean if it's process or policy change, it might be a comms plan, it might be a bit of a change plan alongside with your HR person, you know, all these things to help remove any barriers that you can see coming. And it's almost part of your change plan would be, what barriers would come up in the future? Let's address them now, and let's address our counter approach on how we can fix that and remove it before we even get there. We can almost predict this is going to happen. So what can we do to ensure that we can quickly push that out the way in short time? Okay, so identify what barriers are and then remove them. What's our next one? All right, so surround yourself with the right people. So this is easier said than done, because a lot of times the people that drain our energies, the people that are full of drama and stress in our lives, sometimes they can be family, sometimes they can be friends we've known forever, but they are toxic, and they'll make change extremely difficult for you, especially if you're going out to make a change, a personal change for yourself, or maybe a career change, or when you're in the workplace, perhaps it's people in your team that have done the same thing for the last 20 years and they're really struggling to change. You need to surround yourself for the majority of the time with people that understand the change, that are keen to change, and hopefully those people will come onto the bus at some point. So you need to identify those people that you feel supported and spend more time with them and try and leverage off that level of energy, because it's going to be really easy that while you're in this state of discomfort through the change, it's going to be really easy for you to be pulled back to the way you were before, or the instance that you were before. So just try and surround yourself in those more delicate early stages with people that are going to support you and give you energy to keep going, and be able to motivate you and keep saying that, yes, you're on the right path. Let's keep this going. So try and remember to do that for your team as well. So if there's change coming through, you may not totally understand it, but you've already decided, yes, there's some positives in it. You've already dialed up the why for you. You've already removed some of those barriers, and now you're going to make sure that you can surround them with the right kind of positive energy to ensure that this change continues to take place. Now, I'm not saying to totally disregard people's concerns. Absolutely, let's get them out on the table and let's have those continual quality conversations. But ultimately, we need to stay positive and not suck everybody's energy out. Okay, so what's the last one we need to think about doing? Keeping the big picture in mind. So when we are approaching change, it can seem absolutely daunting. So when we've made it through to the other side, it's really easy to look back with perspective and say, yeah, I had to go through that growth and it was great because look where we are now. And often we forget to think about all the discomfort and anxiety and stress and fear that we went through to get to where we are now. So it's probably really a good idea to reflect back on all the different changes that you've already been through and how you've got from to the other side and how you're in a better space for it. So, for example, even if we go back to when we were first driving a car, how fearful was that? That was probably really anxious with a bit of excitement in there, with a bit of trepidation, all those sort of levels of discomfort. But now could you think about not having a car? A lot of people can't. So just think about those changes you've already been through and think about how, you know, it's been a better change for you because of whatever particular reasons. So keep that picture in mind that, yes, you're going to go through levels of discomfort, but you know on the other side of that, there's going to be great change, great instances for you to be the best version of yourself. So make sure change can be scary, but make sure that you take some time to proactively manage the process so you can absolutely set yourself up for success. So I hope this has helped. So let's go quickly through those again. So you have, let's just go through. I'm just going to quickly go back. So remember, our brains are really lazy. So we need these 5 things to remember to try and get our brains to acknowledge that we are going to do this change, whether it likes it or not, because your brain will be fighting to go back to its normal habitual self because it's, naturally lazy. So don't counter emotion with logic. Allow yourself to feel that anxiety and fear, and then have a reflect. Why am I feeling like this? Is it because I don't want to look stupid? Is it because this change might take away bits that I'm really enjoying of my job? Things like that. Have a think about why you're going through those emotions. Because as much as people say, yes, this change is going to be great, you're still going to go through those emotions. So we need to deal with those. And subsequently, we need to deal with those with our team as well. Dial up the benefits for you. What's in it for you? Consequently, what's in it for your team? What's in it for them? What are the benefits? Dial those up so that they can see that there's going to be, a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow almost. So make sure that that's dialed up. Number 3, so we're going to identify and predict what barriers are going to stop us moving forward, whether that be for our team or ourselves, and we're going to already think of things that we can do to remove them. So, for example, if you were trying to get healthy and fit, and you know that you can't have chips in the house, or you can't, you have to go to the gym in the morning because if you leave it to the afternoon, you'll never go, all those sorts of things. Those barriers, you already know, you can predict them, so remove them. Get all the chips out of the house, get the chocolate out of the house, sleep in your gym clothes, do all that sort of stuff that you have to do to make sure that those barriers are removed. And in a work sense, do the same thing. Predict what's going to come up and then counter it with what you can do to make that barrier go away. Surround yourself with the right people. So making sure that you don't get sucked into a vortex, and make sure that your team doesn't do the same. You're going to have 1 or 2 people on your team that are really resistant to change. So what can you do to ensure they don't have that influence on the others? Make sure you surround them with as many positive vibes as you can, and then keep having that open conversation with those people that are resistant to change, and try and have that quality conversations with them on a constant basis to try and keep them up with the pace of change that's happening. It's not going to be easy, believe you me, but you can do it. And then the last but not least, keeping the big picture in mind. So remembering all the change that you've already gone through. Yes, it was levels of discomfort. Yes, you were fearful. Yes, you had anxiety, all those sorts of things. But ultimately, you came out the other side, and it was a much better reason that you got to the other side. So there was a better environment, whatever that may be. You might have been fitter. You might have been healthier. You might have been, a better policy's gone through, which has removed some negative things that was there in the past. So just have a think about those big pictures of how it's already gone in the past, and then think about, maybe this is going to be the same thing that's going to happen for this one as well. All right. How did we go? Did we feel okay about that? How did we go with folding our arms? Did we see that it can be pretty tough? Because it's coming from a different part of our brain, remember? So when we're going through change, we're using the prefrontal cortex, which is taking a lot longer to process stuff. It's our high-level thinking. It's our planning part of our brain. So it needs to work harder. The brain needs to work harder, which is what makes it feel so uncomfortable. So until we've done it a number of times, and some people say that habits, you have to do something 12 times and it becomes a habit. I would suggest that it takes a lot quicker than that. So if you've ever been to a conference or a 2-day workshop or whatever, and you have parked in a certain car park and you've sat in a certain seat in that room, you can bet your bottom dollar that 9 out of 10 people will come and want to sit in that same seat. They'll want to park their car in that similar area of the car park. Habits form very, very, very quickly. So, don't think you have to do things 12, 15, 20 times before they become a habit. That can happen a lot quicker than that. All right, so I'm going to bring you back and stop this slide presentation. There you are. And ask if you have got any questions for me. So this was all about change. And the reason I wanted to speak to you about this today is because I know there's a lot of people just starting the program, and there's been quite a few people that have been on the program for a while. And the program is built, the Team Leader Toolkit program is built to take you outside that comfort level, because you are going to have a state of change. So you are going to be using that front frontal part of your brain that is the high level thinking and will take you out of your comfort zone. So there are 5 things that you can do to try and make this change a little bit easier for you without going into avoidance or sticking your head in the sand. You can do this. Remember all those changes that you've been through before that made you fearful, made you anxious, made you discomfort, all those sorts of things, but you were able to get there in the end, and it was always advantageous. So let's keep that in mind. But I think this is really, really relevant too for when your teams are going through any sort of change that they may be going through. So have a think about that, and then how can you address these 5 things for them as well. All right. So without further ado, I think we are done. Has anyone got anything they like to add? Any questions? Any thoughts? All right. Sam, yes. Have you got any questions, or are you saying you just agree? All right. Just making sure everyone can see and hear me okay. I think they can. So is there any, you agree, Sam? Well done. Okay. All right. So it doesn't look like we've got any questions for today, which is fantastic. It means everybody is feeling comfortable. We've had some questions. All right. Thanks, Flick. No questions there. All right. So we've had some questions come through the ask at teamleadertoolkit.com. So continue to ask away. There's 3 places you can ask me a question. There's the ask at teamleadertoolkit.com email, so feel free to ask me there. You've got 24/7 access to our Facebook site, which is a secret Facebook site only for Team Leader Toolkit masters as yourself. So you've got that option, or you've got here at Q&A Thursday. You can ask me any question that you might have as well. So make sure you take advantage of those 3 ways that you can ask me any question like, and I will get onto it straight away. All right, so without further ado, thanks for joining me, and thank you, Melbourne, and all the new people at Ego Pharmaceuticals, Flick yourself, Simone, Leanne, Phil, Maylin, and I'm looking forward to the new members that are going to be joining us soon. Thank you very much, Liz, for taking me around your site. It's been great to spend a couple of days with some of the Toolkit Masters. Fantastic, and I look forward to more times that I can do that. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to let you go. I will speak to you guys next week. I'll have some fantastic stuff to share with you then, so don't miss it. But until then, see you. Have a great Easter, guys. You too, Flick. Bye.